Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday to you. It is Wednesday, right? I had to think about that for a minute. I just realized the microphone isn't on. So we're going to try this again. Good morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday to you. I'm so excited to have you here for another episode of Project Joy Live. It's going to be an amazing episode because we're going to be talking about the fact that we have just 1 month left until the premiere of The Friendship Paradox. So let's get ready and start our day off with joy right now. Good morning. That should be a little bit better. Hopefully you guys can hear me. Thumbs up, heart button, whatever you can find to let me know. Little technical snafus here this morning because this is what happens when I have 1,000,001 things going on at one time. But I'm so excited to be here with you today. I'm your host, Jessica Dugas, and this is Project Joy Live. It's your triple shot of good vibes every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at this 9 a.m. Eastern Time hour. We have 1 month left, you guys, until the premiere. Less than 1 month now. Yesterday was the 1 month mark. We have 1 month hypothetically left until the premiere of my documentary film, The Friendship Paradox. And I'm already feeling, guys, as we inch closer to the premiere, like we're going to need a follow-up. We're going to need a follow-up, you guys. So without further ado, let's get into the morning brew to talk about today's episode, and head over to the comments right now and let me know where you're joining from and what's bringing you joy today. I hope you guys are feeling good so far this morning. I'm awake. One of the things bringing me a lot of joy this morning, however, is we have been getting together. This is the 16th week every single morning I'll say my commitment, my goal was to just show up for myself, whatever that looked like movement wise for myself in the morning. I have struggled. I've really been, I don't even really like to use struggle because sometimes it's just challenging, but it's not necessarily a struggle. So let me backtrack on that. I'm trying to choose my language here. But I have been challenged a lot of my life with health challenges and weight challenges and just a lot that I've worked through with it in my life. And one of the things that's been especially challenging for me is the ability to move my body and the way that I look at exercise. And one of the most challenging parts for me has been with that, because there's been so many instances in my life where exercise has caused pain or caused a challenge or whatever. It is hard for me to go into it with a positive mindset, not thinking of that trauma that I've experienced. And so so my goal was just to show up for myself and just say, okay, I'm going to show up, and whatever this looks like today, I'm going to be grateful for it. And so over the last 16 weeks, I've been doing it. And at some point a couple weeks ago, my oldest daughter was like, I see some changes in you, and I think I kind of want that too. And so she's like, can you get me up to do that as well? And I'm like, absolutely. So then yesterday, my second oldest daughter goes, hey, I've got some goals too. Will you wake me up as well? And so this morning, I had my two oldest daughters exercising with me. And then my one of my other daughters came out, and then my son came out. Now they didn't exercise, but they came out and they saw. And one of the things that is an interesting self-reflection piece for me is thinking about how much I appreciate instant gratification. Anybody else out there have patience issues? Anybody want to admit that with me here this morning? I was not born with patience. When the stork dropped me off, he was like, patience, what's that? Just forgot about that part. And so a lot of times I will go into something doing it and feel like, if I don't get that instant response, feeling like, am I even making a difference? Doesn't even matter, everything else. And so I'm here to say, like, with this in particular, it's really been a beautiful lesson for me in just continuing to keep going, because I'm noticing some differences in myself with stamina and things like that. And also seeing after so many weeks now it having an effect on other people as well. So for those of you who maybe were dropped off by the stork without patience, like I was, I'm just here to tell you to stick with it, and eventually you will see. Eventually, it will pay off. Eventually, something. Okay, and so stick with it, because that's my little my little PSA today. So all of that being said, I'm very excited on the show today because we're going to be talking about one of my other children birthing into the world, and that is my film, The Friendship Paradox, which yesterday we officially are on the 1 month countdown until the premiere. And I'm working hard over here. I'm working very hard over here. A lot with this project. But on today's show, I want to share with you why this project was important to me, why right now, and how as the days go on, I feel even more and more connected to this project, and what you can expect with the documentary. Okay, so we're going to talk about that on today's show, and I'm going to head over to the comments and see who's here today and what is bringing you all joy this morning. Miss Nancy is here today. Good morning, Nancy. Good to see you. Let's see. My kitty whiskey is healing so well, and the energy of morning coolness feels wonderful. Not too cool, just refreshing. I agree. I think that the weather is stunning right now, even in New England. William Plonge is joining us this morning from Ghana. Hello, William. Good morning. Good to see you. We miss having you here. Check in sometime. It'll be great to hear from you. After, of course, all of this friendship documentary stuff. Aries here, patience can feel like a dirty word. Listen, and if we're going to throw astrology into the mix, I am very Aquarius all day, every day, and so I was talking to someone about this the other day, how, Aquarius is the humanitarian of the zodiac. We want to change the world, make the world a better place. And when we make efforts to do that and we don't see it pay off, like at least somewhat right away, it's going to be like, what am I doing? Doesn't even matter. So I think that plays into things with an Aquarius for sure. Brittany admits it. She's here with me this morning, lacking on the patience for sure. William says, stick with it. Eventually it'll pay off 100% with anything that we do. It can be challenging not to have that instant gratification or that seeing a difference right away, but we really do. If we want to see a difference, we need to have discipline and kick our own rear end a little bit. I'm just saying. Yes, the weather has been beautiful, and I'm glad you're laughing with me this morning, Miss Nancy. So listen, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to be playing a few clips. You guys may have seen them, you may have not, of the Friendship Paradox. And then I will be premiering a new clip towards the end of the episode this morning. And in between, I'm going to talk to you guys all about the project, the why, the how, the when, the all of that. So stay tuned. Here's the first look at the Friendship Paradox.
On April 4th, I was 90 years old, grandson of slaves. My parents are first generation free. A long time ago, I embrace the definition of love. Love is the experience of well-being. And a friend is one who mutually shares that experience of well-being with you, which opens up almost infinite creative possibilities.
Welcome back to Project Joy Live. That was the first look that was released of the Friendship Paradox, which features the beautiful, stunning faces of all of the stars of the project. And we heard from Caldwell Williams, who you guys might remember if you're fans of the Breakthrough Show Network and you watch Beyond 2D with Ferran Dozier and I. Caldwell is a good friend of Ferran's out in Cali and has joined us on Beyond 2D before. And as he mentioned in the clip, he's 90 years old. And one of the things that I really have prided myself on with this project is the range of ages. So our youngest participant or interviewee or star, as we'll call them, in the documentary is 30 years old at the time of interview, and our oldest is 90 years old. And I really wanted to look at friendship from a large range of perspective. And so I felt one of the best ways to do that would be through age. We also have both male and female represented. We have different races represented, different religions represented. We also have LGBTQ represented. And so I feel like there's just such a beautiful, diverse group that we have for this project. And that was something that was really, really important to me coming into this, because I realized with the subject of friendship that so much of how we view friendship, how we process friendships, how we appreciate friendships can really depend on how we grew up. And some of these other things. I mean, it would be, as I mentioned earlier, as time has gone on and I've been in this editing process of working on putting together all of these clips for the documentary, I have become more and more connected with the project, and also more and more connected with the fact that I think we're going to need to do a follow-up, because that is a question for me that we really didn't broach in this is, do you feel like things like age, race, religion, maybe even socioeconomics, things like that, maybe like does any of that play a factor into our ideas about friendship, how we prioritize it, etc. And so that's something that maybe will be a part of a part two. I don't know, but at any rate, so why did I decide to do this project? Now, I've talked a little bit about some of this stuff over time, and so it's kind of going to be a little bit of a recap, maybe some new thoughts as well. But friendship was always, as I look back to my childhood, really interesting to me. I think when we're kids, we're often encouraged to go make friends. And I didn't remember, looking back, anyone ever teaching me what that looks like in a formal sense. I remember formally being told, be nice to other people, be friends with other people. But outside of that, I don't really remember there being any kind of formal, this is how you make a friend, or this is how you be a friend, or this is how you maintain friendship as life adjusts from childhood to teenage years to early adulthood and into, getting married and having kids and getting jobs and all of these things that we do as adults. And as far as examples for me, I remember seeing my mom have friends I remember seeing my grandparents have friends, and those relationships looked really differently as far as, what they did. And again, I don't really remember there being any kind of formal instruction, and there's nothing good or bad about that. It's just interesting that there is a pressure, I feel like, on children to go make friends, but then not really anything as far as sustaining or maintaining those friendships as time goes on, or if it's even necessary. Is it necessary? Because we know that people come and go in our lives. And so that was the first sort of little nudge for me, about my sort of interest in this topic of friendship. And then the next thing that happened is that I got married very young, and I moved away from home really young. I was 20 when I got married, moved away, had a baby. Like, it was a lot at one time for someone so young. I fully admit that. And my entire life and now, I had never moved out of New England before. I'd visited other places, but I had never moved out of New England. And it was a struggle for me in adulthood to make friends. It was really a struggle because I didn't know anybody. I feel like moving had a big impact on that. I also was really struggling with my mental health. I was in an abusive relationship. There was a lot that was going on at that time. And so maybe thinking back, I couldn't really prioritize it the way that I could, or were there other things at play? I don't know. And so, I got to thinking about that as well, about how much of a challenge it had been for me to make friends. And then when I moved down south, a little bit about how many years ago? I don't even know, 15 years ago or so. I moved down south and realized that some of those cliques that happened in school were still happening as an adult. And that was something I really recognized as well. Living down south was the first time that I recognized it was the people had like these groups, and if you weren't a part of that group, I mean, if you were not raised down south, you just didn't fit in. And so I really, really struggled with that. So then fast forward 2.5 years ago, we moved back here to Connecticut, where I grew up. And what I thought was going to be this sort of I don't know, happy reunion. And I don't feel like this was just me fantasizing about what it would be like to come back home and be connected with people again and make friends. But there were also, throughout the years, so many people that I talked to in this area back home that were like, oh, I wish you lived back here. And I wish you could come home. And I wish, and if you ever move back home, or if you ever come and visit, we'll get together, or whatever the situation is. And that has not been my experience, for in general speaking. Every now and then I might run into some people at the grocery store or whatever that I knew. um it just hasn't been my experience. And again, I don't hold anybody like right or wrong or indifferent, but I had to ask myself too, do we all have these sort of fantasies in our heads of what friendship is supposed to look like as time changes throughout the years? Or is it just me? Like, what is it? And all of this stuff has always been in my head. It's just these thoughts and things that I had about friendship. And then last Christmas, I received a book for Christmas that my husband had a hand in putting together, along with Oleg Lohid, who you guys have seen on the show before. And he has a new company called Moments Worth Remembering. And they are these books of thoughts and memories put together by your loved ones and then given to you, a sort of living eulogy, if you will. And when I received that book, it was very emotional for me. We're almost at a year since receiving that book, and I'm not even, I'm not even 100% that I've completely processed it yet. But one of the very interesting things about when I received that book is that a couple months prior to receiving that book, a friendship that I had for quite a long period of time came to an end sort of abruptly. Um, had it been my decision, that friendship would not have ended. Had it been my decision, we would have talked through some of the challenges that we were facing as friends. But putting that aside, I opened the book to find one of the passages about how great and wonderful I am and what a great friend I am from this particular person, who that passage was compiled before our friendship severed. And in that moment, literally, as I'm sobbing on my couch looking at this book, in that moment, I went, it's time to have this conversation. We need to have this conversation about friendship. And I went and looked on YouTube. I did some Google searches. There were a lot of videos and things regarding friendship about like how to spot a toxic friendship, how to let people go, sort of thing. But there still wasn't any conversation about what people really want out of a friendship and what it looks like to manage or commit to a friendship later on in life. What did it look like to transition from friendships in childhood to adulthood? The conversation just wasn't being had. And I said, I felt a calling and I was like, it's time. It's time to actually have this conversation. So that is sort of the very long story process of some of the things that I processed in my own head, wondering if I'm the only one that has felt this way, or thought these things or had these questions about friendship. And so I wanted to get together a group of people to have this conversation and make it into a film. So all of that being said, thank you so much, William. Let's head over to the comments. Good morning, Kim. Good to see you. Motivate. Thank you so much for being here. A much different time then. I'm so glad that you relate as well. It's interesting. It's interesting and challenging. Good morning, Teresa. Good to see you. No apologies necessary. I love that you decided to do this documentary. I'm so beyond proud of you. I brag on my bestie all the time. You're amazing. I appreciate that. It has been a lot of stress in the last couple months getting it put together. It's not even finished yet, you guys, and it's coming out in a month, but I do feel a sense of momentum now that I wasn't feeling for a little while. Interestingly enough, some of playing into that has been things with friendships. And so, yeah, I'm excited. So one of the people that is participating, it has participated by being a part of one of the interviews was Kat Stomska, who is over in Scotland, which that's another thing that's beautiful about the people that participated in the documentary is that they're from different parts of the world as well. So that's another just diverse layer that we're adding to the conversation. But I got to thinking about, as we were going along in these interviews, about the language that we use and what the word friend actually means. And Kat was such a beautiful person to ask this question or to go down this little rabbit hole with, because she speaks more than one language. And so we discussed the language of friends. So I want you guys to take a look at this clip right now.
I would say in my mother tongue, which is Polish, certainly there is an additional meaning, and I always felt closer, like that. The sound of that word, which is przyjaciółka, it's a little more. It like gives me a little more meaning. It's like somebody, almost like a teddy bear, which you can hug and hold, when you really need to, and without like any questions asked, and they are just there. Whereas like the English word friend is more, I associate it more with, having, friends at work, friends maybe who I met on the bus, or maybe somebody asked me for time and we started, kind of having friendly conversation. So yeah, in certain ways there is a slightly different meaning.
Yeah, it sounds like your interpretation of the American or English word friend is more like acquaintance. Well, we would say acquaintance, or someone that we just meet and not necessarily have a friendship with.
Yeah, we could. I think I would agree with that, or at least that was like at the very beginning. Maybe because I needed time to adjust to to new culture. I've moved to Scotland nearly 18 years ago, so that's a long time, and over time certainly the word friend has gotten a different and like deeper meaning for me, but I don't think it's gonna be ever as close as the original meaning of a friend which I grew up with, as part of my own language.
Literally one of my favorite clips, you guys, from Kat. Thank you so much, Kat Stomka, for your thoughts about the word friend and language and how we process that word. I loved how she described friend as a hug in one language. I really felt that. And so I get so emotional, you guys, watching these clips. I am going to cry like a baby through the whole film. I'm just telling you, and I'm the one that put it together. So I'm really excited about this. So again, that special thank you to Kat for that beautiful clip. So why am I becoming more connected with this film over time? As we inch closer to the election here in the United States, and I think about, too, the conversation that Olivia Ambani and I had about some of the political turmoil that had been happening in Kenya as well. And as I think about these things, and I'm just sort of watching, I love people watching. Anybody else? I'm just sort of watching behavior. On social media, through different interviews and things like that. I've just gone down the rabbit hole. I don't know if you guys have seen, there's a YouTube channel, I think it's called Jubilee. I may have to correct myself on that. I will double check before the next show, but they facilitate a lot of debates. And they've had a lot of sort of liberal versus conservative and Republican versus Democrat and all of these different debates on there. They've even had like they had beautiful, not necessarily just that either. Sometimes hot button issues. They had a beautiful conversation between mothers and daughters, and some of the thoughts that we have behind the scenes. Anyway, I really enjoy watching those, and I've been watching a lot of them recently because for the most part, across the board, people are having civil and beautiful conversations. And so I've really appreciated that lately because we do see a lot of name calling, mudslinging, a lot of this stuff. And so as all of this has been going on in the outside world, and here I am in my little inside world, heavily in the realm of friendship and relationships, I can tell you 100%, not one time in over 30 hours of footage for this documentary, not one time. Do y'all hear me? Put it in the comments. Not one time. Not one time did one person bring up political ideologies as a litmus test for the ability to have a friendship. Not one time did someone bring up politics, religion, money. None of it ever got up. Another reason I have been thinking in my head, God, we're going to need a follow-up to follow up to this question. And it's not, or to the documentary. And it's not to say that there was an opportunity for those things in the questions that I asked everybody in the interviews. It's not to say that there wasn't opportunity. I mean, some of you that are in the comments here this morning were interviewed for this project. And so you can speak to whether or not I gave space for you to be able to express what friendship means to you. What does that look like? How do you process it? How do you stay connected? You had opportunity in all of those things, and not once did anybody bring up that stuff, which I find really, really fascinating on reflection. Perhaps, you could argue that maybe the participants were waiting for me to ask a question about it, which again brings me to a desire to maybe host a part 2 eventually. So as time goes on, I have to ask myself, are we being truthful with ourselves as to what we're looking for in our circle of friends? 2, are we having these important conversations, which is something that did come up quite a bit in our interviews, how important communication is to each of us. And are we actually being honest and taking the time to communicate with each other as friends, like we would with a spouse or a family member, or maybe someone else that we're more accustomed to having these deep, intimate conversations with? So all of that being said, are you guys ready? Because I want to show you another new clip. If you're ready, give me some comment or give me some hearts in the comments below. If you're ready to see an all new clip. Another person that I interviewed as part of this documentary is Brett Gordon. And Brett Gordon and I met on this virtual set, if you will, of Java Delight, which is a morning show that was run by Brandon Croucher. And we were both co-hosts on this show, this morning show. And Brett and I, as we got to know each other, I learned about Brett's work in corporate and with people who are business people, entrepreneurs. And he does a specific kind of leadership assessment, which pegs you as a certain kind of person, but it talks about the beauty of cultivating your work environment with these different types of people. So everything in his assessment is you fall as part of a square. And in this square, you might be more outgoing, or you might be more of a behind the scenes person, or you might be more analytical or more creative or a star or something like that. So you learn in this assessment where you fall in this square. And as I was sitting here having our friendship interview conversation with Brett, I thought to myself, what would it be like if we could use an assessment like that to cultivate our friendship circle as well? The point of his assessment is learning about your strengths and then sort of being able to know the strengths of other people and put them in certain positions to where you essentially make up a perfect square or have somebody filling out all these different roles. And I thought to myself, what would that be like to cultivate your friends in that sort of way? Would you even want to? So I asked Brett that question, and he had a really beautiful response, and I want to share it with you right now.
100%. And, in line with that, I use a specific model that I have an assessment for when I work with businesses, and they work very well with relationships too. In fact, my girlfriend and I are kind of on opposite sides of the square, which is the model that I use. I am more of an analytical, logical type of a person. When I interact with people, I try to look more deeply into why do they think that way and so forth. My girlfriend, on the other hand, is one who enjoys social interaction. And when she's not able to go out and talk to people and have fun and do those types of things, she looks at things completely differently. And part of our relationship, which is great and sometimes challenging, is that we do look at the exact same type of an event that we're at from a completely different perspective. And that carries back even to when we were in high school. She talks about high school and how fun it was and the social activities and going out and hanging out at the beach and doing those types of things. And I was in class. I enjoyed learning. That was the fun part of school for me. It was not the social aspect. So having a group of friends that kind of work around that square gives you a perspective of life that oftentimes we don't ever connect with. And I think that that's a lot of the reason that we have conflicts and that we have groups of people that are thinking the same way that we do, but you know what, the rest of the world might not. So I think that it creates a much better view of the world if we're able to even actively choose friends that do fill out more of the square as opposed to just those that think like me.
Yeah. I think part of the challenge of that is like getting used to having those other opinions around us, but being able to view it as it's just another opinion, as opposed to taking some sort of offense to it. They're not being in the same part of the square as you know, like just being a different person, like appreciating them for being in a different part of the square as opposed to being mad about it.
Well, I think that comes out in a lot of cases where I call it being in violent agreement. I'm coming at an answer or trying to accomplish something from a logical perspective, and somebody that's more of a people person is going to come at it from a different perspective. And oftentimes when we're talking, it's like passing two cars passing in the night without their lights on, and they go past and they're actually talking and trying to accomplish the same thing, but because they're looking at it from a different perspective, they actually can get into a collision where they believe they're fighting about it, but in fact, it's just the perspective that we're trying to accomplish the same thing.
Welcome back to Project Joy Live. Thank you so much for taking a look at that clip from the upcoming film, The Friendship Paradox, which premieres, by the way, on November 29th, 2024. I'm really excited about that. I'm very emotional over here, you guys, because I let me know what you guys think of that clip. I really just loved each and every conversation that I had with every person as part of this documentary, and especially someone like Brett that came to the table with experience in a specific area, and and like Kat, and I had the opportunity to tailor questions based on what I know their life experience to be as well. And I just loved the analogy that he used in the end of like the cars passing in the night with no lights on. Like we both have the same goal, right? Like we're both driving, but we're just coming at it from a different perspective. And if we can just tap into that for a moment, this is one of those reasons that I feel this documentary is so important at this very specific moment in history, to think about, the fact that it's beautiful that we're all so different and have these different thoughts and opinions. And if we can come together and just remember that, just think about these are just another thought or opinion, it doesn't change the fact that maybe this is a good person. Maybe this is a person that would make a great friend in so many different areas, that we don't have to be exactly the same. That, I mean, we could, there just would be so much more peace and love and joy in the world. And I hope you guys felt that watching that clip as well. Brittany said, I'll admit, since the documentary, I've definitely appreciated differences way more than I used to. When we truly sit back and appreciate the differences, there is a level of beauty and admiration in the differences. 100%. It's been literally, that has been at the forefront of my mind as we move forward. And I think that the timing, I have to go back to the timing of everything. It's going to be so beautiful, the timing that this comes out after the election, when I like to hope. I like to hope things will maybe listen, I'm not going to be naive. Okay. I'm not going to be naive today, but I like to hope for peace and love and joy and all of those things. And so I hope you will watch the documentary. Go to thefriendshipparadox.com and sign up for notifications for the documentary. I'm going to be starting to put more things out on social and things like that over the next month. You'll get to meet all of the amazing people that are part of the documentary. Coming up in November, I will be talking to Trista when she comes on the show, and Brittany. I will also be having a conversation about friendship with my daughter Leah, who is has been guesting on the show, and she's 8 years old, and so I'll be talking to her about friendship as well, coming up towards the release of the documentary. And so stay tuned for that. Even though I didn't include children in this documentary because I felt like I wanted to look at this from the adult perspective. But yeah, so there's a lot to come. So stay tuned for that. What can you expect from the documentary? I had a lot of the clips that you have been seeing that I've shared on the show here have been extras. I came into each interview with the same list of questions. I wanted there to be a sense of just sort of stability. There's a consistency. That's the word I was looking for. Consistency throughout each of the conversations. I also knew that I wanted to have more than one perspective on each of the questions. And then, like I said, because I knew some people were coming into it with different perspectives, or sometimes the conversation just went a certain direction, and I felt like it was a beautiful opportunity to add a new question in or something like that. So a lot of these questions that you're seeing answered here on the show have been ones that are those extras, those extra questions, because I didn't want to sort of give away the way that the rest of the questions went, which I asked everybody. So I hope you've been enjoying them like I have, and I can't wait for you to see the full film. You're going to hear we're going to talk specifically in the documentary about friendship in childhood, in teenage years, what friendship looked like coming into adulthood. Did anybody actually teach anyone anything about friendship? What communication looks like? What do we expect from friendship in adulthood? How things like grief have played into our journey, and children. What have we taught our own children about friendship, if anything? Are we making a new pattern, or are we in the same pattern that our parents and grandparents or caregivers were in? Talking about how social media and the internet have changed the landscape of friendship and what that looks like. And so there's really a lot of amazing topics that were covered, and I can't wait to share this film with you in November. So all of that said, we are not going to do anything else on the show today because I want you guys to just sit in this beautiful realm of friendships and thoughts of friendship. I'm going to be back on Friday with Leah. We're going to be, I mentioned my daughter Leah. We're going to be talking about Lilo and Stitch. on Friday. She's been begging me to talk about that film on air. So we're going to do that on Friday, and maybe we'll tie in a little bit about friendship on Friday as well. And I'm sure she'll want to tell you all about how her Halloween went and all of that as well. So stay tuned. Thank you guys so much for being here today. I appreciate and love you all so very much. I'm your host, Jessica Dugas, and I want to remind you to make joy a priority in your life today and every day, because you are the joy. Thank you so much. Visit thefriendshipparadox.com, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye, everybody.
I've been trying, and I've been lifting myself up, yeah, I've been climbing.